Hi guys, it's Chris Priestman here from hookedgamers.com, here today with another video review for Hydrophobia. Hydrophobia is a third-person survivor shooter in which you play Kate Wilson, a systems engineer aboard the city-sized ocean liner the Queen of the World. Hydrophobia is set during the mid-21st century, by which time the massive population growth we are witnessing today has become slightly out of control. The Queen of the World was built by 5 megacorporations known as the Founding Fathers. The ship hides away the world's wealthy elite, but it also allows these megacorporations to conduct breakthrough scientific research they hope will help with the population problem. Unfortunately for the ship's inhabitants, during the 10th anniversary celebrations aboard the Queen of the World, an opposing political group who call themselves the Neo-Malthusians attack the ship. Playing as Kate, your aim is to simply survive the terrorist attack aboard the ship and make your way to the upper decks towards safety. Unfortunately for Kate, it is not just terrorists that stand in her way, as the ship has been sabotaged and water is quickly flooding in. The game's title refers to Kate's apprehension towards water, which brings up a bad memory which saw her young sister killed in a tragic drowning accident. The thing that most stands out with Hydrophobia is the game's newly developed Hydro engine. This engine supplies the game with a unique free-flowing water system I have never seen before. It simply blew me away. Your first encounter with it is one of those gaming moments which stick in your head for a little while. It goes a little something like this. Pretty impressive, eh? This first instalment of the game, which is to be released as a trilogy, is split into 3 acts. In the first act, you get to know Kate a bit better by exploring her apartment. You are then chucked straight into the crisis in the lower decks of the ship. First of all, you will have to escape these dangerous parts using Kate's agility. One fault I have for the game is that I felt her movement was at times a little stiff. It didn't have the smoothness I was used to after playing similar games like Tomb Raider. Luckily, you are not under any pressure to move too quickly, so it doesn't hinder you too much. As a systems engineer, Kate can use her skills and tools to hack through the disabled security of the ship. Her most important tool is her Mavi device, a flexible screen that can hijack CCTV, remotely activate doors and hack into mainframes. This is done through a small mini-game in which you have to match frequencies to successfully complete the hack. To help you along is your comical Scottish boss Scoot. He supplies you with extra equipment and info to help you progress through the game. One thing I really liked about the game is how the characters are portrayed. They seem really down to earth and you can really feel their emotions in some parts, which helps you connect with them. Kate is a particularly good character, which is a good job as she is the protagonist. What is good about Kate is that she's a believable character. She is not one of these super sexy, gunslinging females you often find in video games nowadays. The game is enhanced by her dialogue, which projects her fear of the water to start off with. I, on the other hand, couldn't wait to get in the water and try out the new physics engine. The swimming controls are very smooth, which makes up for the stiffness whilst on dry land. If anything, it feels like the developers are trying to make sure you use their water engine. It is very impressive, like I said, and very fun to play around with. One of my favourite things to do was to open doors to flood rooms, creating a makeshift water slide. After experimenting with water and becoming used to its realism and potential, Act 2 introduces the combat system in the game. This is where the fun really starts. After acquiring an LP4, a small pistol that comes with a variety of different rounds, the game introduces the many different ways you can kill enemies. First of all you will have available to you is sonic rounds. They emit a small burst of electricity that can shock opponents. Simply shocking opponents isn't that effective though, as you can imagine. The game encourages you to use the environment around you. Be creative, try different things. This is not a simple point and shoot game. Some of the ways to kill the terrorists are as follows: electric wires, gas leaks, drowning, exploding barrels. The best part though is when you bring water to the fight. I would recommend this as again I found the controls a little stiff when trying to get behind cover on dry land. When you encounter enemies you will often find that there are many water-filled rooms around. These are there for you to utilise to your advantage. Timing it right so that a water cascade sends your enemy halfway down the corridor is great fun. Bring in enough liquid and the fight will go underwater, which is a much more pleasant experience. Underwater the combat is brilliant, it is very smooth and great fun. I was very impressed with the graphics here. When you get shot your blood mixes with the water as you would expect in reality. Combat is somewhat spectacular underwater as well, as things are slowed down, explosions and bullets in particular. To mix things up a little bit more, later on in the game you will find different rounds for your LP4. These are semi-automatic rounds, rapid fire rounds, gel rounds, and energy rounds. After killing all the terrorists in an area, you will often find one that is glowing green. By searching his body you will find their frequency key, which will be used to find an encryption code to unlock the doors to progress through the game. You cannot see the encryption code with the naked eye though. You will have to use your Mavi device to find directional arrows towards the encryption code on the wall. Overall, the story mode in the game is very interesting and keeps you playing with the different parts of the gameplay you can experiment with. This will be essential if you want to get your money's worth, as the game only comes into about 3 or 4 hours max in one playthrough. Saying this, there are a number of other things to keep you interested in playing for longer. First off, there are several collectibles on each act. These come in a variety of forms, from emails to journals to items. On top of this, you also have many medals to find in each act. Altogether there are nearly 50 medals which reward you for reaching certain landmarks and performing skill-based actions throughout the game. Furthermore, these collectibles are added to your final score for the act, which is then uploaded to the global leaderboard. To reach the higher scores though, you will have to be creative with the combat system. Chaining together different attacks on your enemies will end up giving you a multiplier on your score. So getting a grip with the combat system and learning how to use the environment is a must for the people who want to reach the higher scores. Fortunately, the game also comes with the challenge room mode. In this mode, you are pitted against 5 rounds of 10 enemies. Again, there are leaderboards, so chaining together your attacks and doing it quickly is essential if you want to reach the top of the leaderboard. This mode does become a little bit bland though very quickly, but watch this space because in the next installments of the game, Kate seems to acquire some hydrokinetic powers which should spice things up a little bit. Rating the game is quite difficult as you are only receiving a third of the game in the download, but what I can tell so far is the game is pretty good. The water features are excellent, but I think we are still yet to see the full potential of the Hydro engine. I have given graphics an 8 as they are quite clear and there is nothing wrong with them. They're not the most top-notch graphics, but for an arcade game they're pretty good. The best graphics in the game clearly lie with the water effects. It really is quite realistic. I gave sound a 6 because I wasn't really blown away by sound at any point during the game. I wasn't particularly impressed with the underwater sound effects, I think they could have been improved somewhat. The interface gets a 9 as it was very user friendly and really does help you out throughout the game. What really stood out was the Mavi device and the 3D map options which helped you find your objectives quicker. Having the option to change your ammo on the D-pad made it easy, and pausing the game meant you had time to select the right ammo for the job. Luckily, as the game is so short, it is actually quite replayable. Not only have you got all the collectibles to find and completing the challenge room, but the more time you seem to put in the single player story mode, the more you seem to get out of it. The reason is mainly due to the water physics. Every time you replay an area it can be done differently, with different amounts of water in different areas and the various amount of ways you can combine to kill enemies. I give replayability a 9.5. The most important element for the game for me was its gameplay. Like I said previously, the gameplay is excellent, especially when you're in water. The only thing that brings it down is a slight stiffness when you are on dry land. Toggling to get behind cover and jumping from place to place wasn't smooth enough, and pressing the buttons several times just isn't quite good enough for me. Nevertheless, the gameplay gets an 8.5. One of my other problems with the game was that it wasn't quite stable enough in some places. What I mean by this is that sometimes gameplay seemed to get a little bit monotonous. Especially in Act 2 when you had to do the same objectives over and over again. Even though the gameplay changed, I think it could have been mixed up with a bit more platformer style puzzles. To be honest with you, I thought the water was going to be a lot more scarier than it is. Instead of finding myself being chased by water cascades or nearly drowning in the flooded rooms, I was actually diving into the water to play with it. Luckily the game is quite varied in its gameplay, so I feel stability deserves a 7. Overall, I really enjoyed Hydrophobia, and I have found it's one of those games that starts off not so brilliant, even though the water effects are outstanding, but it gets better the more you play it. And like I said, this is not the full game, so it's hard to judge it by itself. Overall, I give Hydrophobia an 8.7 out of 10. Please visit our website at hookedgamers.com, where you can find the latest news and articles on games across all platforms. Also check out our weekly podcast for an entertaining show that will keep you informed on all things gaming. Furthermore, make sure to search for us on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. You can even chat to other gamers on our forums. Just click the link at the top of the homepage. Hooked Gamers, because gaming is a lifestyle.